Fernando Valenzuela was denied again. Not because he lacked greatness, but because Hall of Fame voters keep ignoring a player who changed baseball, changed the city, and changed generations. This snub isn't about stats, it's about legacy. And today, we're diving into why this one hurts.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Harry Ruiz. That's Travis Rodgers, and it's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. On today's show, there's mutual interest between the Dodgers and Kike Hernandez. The MLB Winter Meetings are underway. Will the Dodgers strike gold in the next couple of days? But first, Fernando Valenzuela, Hall of Fame heartbreak again. Travis, I'm so disappointed in this, man.
Yeah, it's a real drag. I'm not surprised to see it, but I'm still disappointed to see it. We're going to get all over it on today's episode of Locked On Dodgers, brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long.
Travis is holding it down every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. with the Travis and DeMarco Show on the radio, 710 ESPN LA, or on your phone via the ESPN LA app. Me, I'm behind the mic for USC and the Raiders doing play-by-play in Spanish, but when I'm not calling touchdowns on weekends, I'm right here breaking down Dodger baseball with you. First time tuning in, welcome to our squad. And to our everydayers, you guys are the real MVPs of Locked On Dodgers. All right. Fernando Mania snubbed again. Cooperstown closes the door at least until 2031. Fernando Valenzuela did not get the votes for the Hall of Fame. He needed 12 votes from the 16-person committee. Now, he got fewer than 5. That's not a near miss. That's not maybe next time. That's a stunning disconnect here. This was Fernando's third attempt under this ballot, and the next time he'll even be eligible is 2031. It's 2025 right now. And while this was happening, Jeff Kent, he got in 14 votes. Cooperstown will be welcoming this former Dodger. Congratulations to him. But right now, the story is El Toro not getting in is simply heartbreaking for a huge generation of fans, for an entire country, for an entire race of Latinos who got into the sport because of Fernando Valenzuela, and that now they're asking themselves, will this ever happen?
Probably not is the short answer, and it's a real drag. Like I said, Harry, I was hopeful that he would get in, but I'm not surprised that he didn't. I just seeing the percentages that he was drawing when he was on the regular ballot, knowing that you needed to get 12 of the 16 votes in this particular situation to get in, it seemed unlikely. I was hoping that the non-baseball stuff would kind of put him over the top, and it's really hard. And I think you fall into this category of people that I'm talking about. I know that I certainly do. I think it's very difficult to separate people that grew up in Los Angeles, people that are Dodger fans, people that are like myself, old enough to have seen Fernando Mania with our own two eyes, to have experienced what that was like, and not have it feel like a Hall of Fame career, because it was. For a period of time, he was as good as anybody in baseball. He changed the way that the Dodgers related to this community in a real and positive and incredibly lasting way. Fernando hasn't thrown a pitch in the major leagues in nearly 40 years, and yet you go to a Dodger Stadium and you still see a lot of 34s out there. You still see a lot of people that are incredibly prideful about Fernando Valenzuela, and rightfully so. I don't know what that feels like outside of the greater Los Angeles area. I know that people know who he is. I know that he's not somebody that's like, who, but I don't know if the way that it feels to you, to me, to Dodger fans, to people that grew up in LA will ever be able to translate to somebody that grew up outside of LA. That if you just look at the back of his baseball card, if you just look at his baseball reference page, the numbers probably are not Hall of Fame worthy, but that's not the whole story. The whole story involves all of the other stuff that have been recorded, just the way that he changed the relationship in Los Angeles, the way he brought Mexican and Mexican-American fans and Latino fans back to Dodger Stadium after a long time where they refused to come because of what had happened at Chavez Ravine when they were building Dodger Stadium. that I don't know if that means anything to anybody outside of this city. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it does, or certainly not enough people realize what that means. It's a disappointment. It really is. Fernando Valenzuela is integral to the history of Dodger baseball. I think he's essential to the history of Major League Baseball. He is as famous of a Dodger as really we've had in a very, very long time. You know, Ohtani and Jackie Robinson and these sort of people are certainly up there, but Fernando's right on that level with the rest of these guys. And it was a disappointment. I wasn't shocked to see it, but it was still heartbreaking.
A wise man once told me, can you tell the story of a sport if you had this guy taken out of the sport? And if you say yes, it's like, well, maybe he wasn't as important. Can you tell the story of baseball without Fernando Valenzuela? I would say absolutely not. And Fernando, for him to not even be considered, I mean, you got other players that were borderline and that they're going to be in the next ballot that is like, okay, 2028 for this committee. Fernando has to wait until 2031, and that's ridiculous. And look, the numbers say one thing, the story says something bigger, because if you want to look at ERA, go ahead. Fernando Valenzuela, 3.54, Jack Morris, 3.9. Jack Morris is in, Fernando is not. Now, if the Hall were only about stats, maybe this one wouldn't sting as hard, because Fernando, he was El Toro, he was the legend for less than a decade. He was at the top of his game because, man, they were using him like crazy. If there was a picture of a workhorse next to the definition of it in the dictionary, Fernando's picture would be next to it. But Fernando's story was never only about stats. He was historical, he was cultural, he was transformational, because there are players in Cooperstown who never moved the city, who never moved the culture, who never moved an entire fan base across generations. And Fernando Valenzuela did. When he took that mound in 1981, Los Angeles changed. Yep. Dodger Stadium changed. Let's remember what happened at Chavez Ravine, how Mexicans weren't going after how the stadium was constructed on land that was property of our raza. But Fernando arrived, and man, we saw a lot of brown folks like me out there in the stands. Major League Baseball changed. It was Shohei Ohtani before Shohei Ohtani, because, Travis, let's be honest. You look at the stands at Dodgers games all throughout the country, and you see a lot of people of Asian descent going out there to support Shohei, to support Yoshi, to support Roki. Back in the day, it was a lot of Mexican fans, a lot of Latino fans being like, there is somebody that looks like me. There is somebody who's living the American dream just like I am, but at a different scale, and he's representing me. And how many players can actually say that? People talk about growing the game. Fernando, he grew the sport in real time.
He's an icon of one of the iconic franchises. And I think, unfortunately, Harry, that may have to be enough for you and for me and for all Dodger fans, because I don't know if what you just described so beautifully translates outside of our city, right? That we got to live it, we got to feel it, and he absolutely changed the way that this team related to it. But I think that a lot of people who are looking at this stuff are just looking at numbers, and unfortunately, he comes up just a little bit short in some of those departments. It stinks. I mean, look, you can't tell the history of Dodger baseball without Fernando Valenzuela is in the first chapter of Dodger baseball, right? When you're talking about the most important players in the hidden, not necessarily the best players. Now, he was really, really good, but the most important players, Fernando is right up there with just about anybody else. And we're gonna have that's gonna have to be good enough. And you know, we know. We got to experience, we get to talk about it, we get to relive it in documentaries and books and everything else. But unfortunately, that incredible vibe that went through this city in the early 1980s. And, you know, I was 10 years old when Fernando started doing that thing, and I was a huge Dodger fan, and it was incredible to see. I haven't seen, I've seen other people, you know, Mike Piazza caught the city by storm. Oral Hershiser was incredibly popular. You know, Hideo Nomo shows up and does what he does. We've seen, you know, Ohtani clearly is a force of nature in his own right. This was a little different. This was something where Every game wasn't on TV. You didn't get to see it all that often. You would have to either go to the ballpark, listen to the radio. Maybe you'd catch a game on a Saturday afternoon. Maybe there'd be a road game televised occasionally, but you really didn't get to see Fernando as much. There was this mystique built up around him, and all the shutouts and all the complete games and all of the incredible performances will live up here for sure. But unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get to see him in the Hall of Fame. And thank goodness that the Dodgers, made an exception to one of their rules and retired his number 34 at Dodger Stadium a few years ago, because it's kind of, you have to be in the Hall of Fame to get your number retired. And I don't think that's going to happen for Fernando, but I'm thrilled that 34 hangs forever at Dodger Stadium.
Some impact is too big to ignore, and fortunately the Dodgers, like you said, made the exception to that rule where they only retire numbers of Hall of Famers, and 34 hangs over there on the left field side of Dodger Stadium because he deserved it and he got to enjoy that moment with his family at Chavez Ravine at Dodger Stadium. So unofficially, he has already entered baseball immortality. His legacy didn't need a damn committee. It didn't need 12 votes. It lives in every kid's heart, like Travis Rodgers, who was 10 years old when he made his debut, who watched him pitch and believed right there is like, hey, man, this guy, he's one of one. Every fan who filled Chavez Ravine because Otero was on the mound, it lives in their heart. And we all know that every generation of Dodger fans who still say his name with pride, we know that Fernando Valenzuela changed history and that it is eternal. We don't need the Hall of Fame, but man, it would have been great if it had happened.
It would have. And it's funny, as you're talking about it, puts a smile on my face, because while the baseball was awesome, right? He makes 8 consecutive starts. I think 7 of them were complete games. 5 of them were shutouts. He just was on this incredible baseball run. That doesn't begin to describe. It was just so much fun, Harry. It was so much fun to know that he was going to pitch that day, to know he was going to pitch that night, and to listen to it on the radio and to cross your fingers that it kept going. And then he had this big smile. He didn't speak much English. So, Jaime Herrin would come in and do the post-game press conferences with him. And he was very humble and very shy. And he just had this incredible charm to him that everybody in this city, whether you were Latino or not, just fell in love with this guy. And we got to enjoy him for a very, very long time. And it's a drag, to be sure, but it certainly doesn't change the way the Dodger fans feel about him.
Fernando, El Toro, te lo mereces. Es una lástima. Fernando, it's a shame that these people don't do it. You definitely deserve it. All right. Next on Locked On Dodgers, the winter meetings are underway in Orlando and the MLB world is buzzing. Could it be another Dodgers ruined baseball week?
NFL Sundays, they move fast. One big play and suddenly everything can feel different. So that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so incredibly exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. Yesterday doing my Rams stuff, I mean, my goodness, were there some unbelievable swings in that thing. And with FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. When Puka starts going bonkers, you can get in on it because every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. That receiver, Puka, gets hot, a defense tightens up, and the momentum flips after a big turnover. Way to go, Landman. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines adjusting instantly, player props that update as guys heat up. You can bet the next touchdown score, drive results, totals, and more because it keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bet all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network. Check out our YouTube channel where you can subscribe for free. Smash that notification bell so you never miss a beat. Full episodes, hot takes, breaking Dodgers news, and more. If it drops, you're on it. That's how you become an everydayer here on Locked On Dodgers. Winter meetings. I think the Dodgers hold the cards. Orlando is usually taken over by kids who have their parents take them to Disney World, but this week, the eyes of the baseball world are on this city due to the winter meetings. executives, agents, players, media. If you're involved in baseball, you're under one roof this week. This is where rumors become reality, or at least where reality gets built. Now, here's what's funny, Travis. In recent years, the Dodgers have not made their biggest splashes at winter meetings, but make no mistake about it, this is where the groundwork gets poured.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is, I'll make an example. So doing what you and I do, kind of the big event in our universe is the Super Bowl, right? And it's not just because the Super Bowl is the final football game of the year. It's where everybody that covers the NFL, everybody that is involved in the NFL, general managers, team owner, everybody is in town for the Super Bowl, and everybody's chit-chatting and whatever. It's a lot of social, but there's also some relationships that get built. There's some conversations that take place. And I would assume that the winter meetings are a lot like that. I don't think that guys are going in there and hammering out the minute, points of a deal. I think that it's more of a, hey, let's get together. And what are you thinking about here? What are you thinking about there? And stuff gets done. And then they go back and they actually get into the nitty gritty of what is going to be in a number of these deals. The Dodgers, I think, have a real advantage in that what they want, they're very aggressive in going. I don't think they're real coy in doing this. I think that they have a very compelling pitch, which is, do you want to compete for the World Series? Do you want to play in front of 45, 50,000 people every night? Do you want to be a part of an organization that doesn't cut a single corner? Here's what we're willing to pay you. Would you like to come? That's it. There's no, we're going to build this. We're going to do that. And, I don't like that number. Hit me with another number. This is what we're willing to do. If they want you, they're going to make it worth your while. And then stuff gets done. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of stuff that maybe not while everyone is in Florida, but shortly thereafter, if these pieces start to snap into place, because we know they're going to be active because they always are.
Yeah. And look, there's teams who do strike right there when the iron is hot, like last year. Juan Soto, he got his monster deal at the winter meetings. And now you got to look at other names that might be doing so this week. And names being thrown around: Kyle Tucker, Edwin Diaz, Cody Bellinger. Could they sign? Yes. Could it be the Dodgers? Always possible, because they've been linked one way or another with the boys in blue, because the Dodgers, we know that they have the money. If there's a trade that's being talked around, they have the prospects. If you know that there's a team motivated to go for another World Series, it's the Dodgers. So the motivation is there. So the window is also always wide open with the boys in blue, where if there's people having conversations and, hey, this person's available, hey, I might be willing to make a deal, they'll always be like, okay, everybody except Artie Moreno pretty much would be like, okay, I'm willing to make a deal right here with Dodger baseball. And every time they've made a big deal, people always said the same thing: they're ruining baseball, which usually means the Dodgers are doing something right. So I have a feeling something is going to happen in these winter meetings.
I hope so. It's fun. It's fun to see guys move around. The Dodgers clearly have a couple of holes that holes may be a bit aggressive, but needs, I think, may be a better way of putting it. They have some needs that need to be addressed. The more I think about it, I know we've talked about this on Locked On Dodgers a lot. I know our everydayers are probably familiar with this conversation, but the more that I turn it over in my head, the more I like the idea of Cody Bellinger coming back to LA. I think it would be really interesting. I think it would be a lot of fun. I think he fits in. I think he does what the Dodgers need, which is play a lot of different positions, play him well. He's athletic. There's a lot of stuff. You don't need him to be that MVP he was several years ago. You got that kind of, star power taken care of in other places. So, I hope that some stuff gets done here. I don't know if you're going to, what complicates all of this too is the labor negotiation that's on the horizon. I think that players are probably looking for some long-term certainty, knowing that there may be some sort of salary structure that changes moving forward. And I would assume that teams are reluctant to do exactly that. They probably want to wait, knowing that, a player that might cost, X today might cost X minus 15% 2 years from now. So they might be a little more cautious when they go into these negotiations. But there will be a season that, you're going to have to fill the team. You're going to have to put some guys together. So I expect the Dodgers and everybody else to be pretty active. And, they're going to get a pitcher. They're going to get an outfielder, and we'll see what it looks like.
Yeah, and you already brought up Cody Bellinger. But look, if the Dodgers go big, it could be an outfielder like Belly, a bullpen arm potentially like Edwin Diaz, or maybe both positions right here that they go out for, because that's what's the buzz right now. The Dodgers, they need bullpen help. The Dodgers would like to get a starting outfielder, preferably a center fielder. That way you can shift Andy Pages over to right field and then Teoscar Hernandez to left, or if Teoscar gets shipped to another team, then bring in a young guy over at left field. But the moves, they get set right here. And Travis, you brought it up. It's like behind escalators, there's people doing negotiations. Over at lunch, at a Starbucks line, agent suites at midnight. You know that the names will be dropping, the text will be flying, and the framework is going to get built, because don't be fooled by the quiet. Winter meetings whisper first and then roar later. So get here through Wednesday. I would always say stay tuned to MLB Network, because that's the official channel for MLB. But every morning, check out Locked On Dodgers. We're going to stay tapped in with all the information and anything that comes out of it regarding our boys in blue.
And what's exciting about the Dodgers, too, is that it's not an outfielder or a relief pitcher. It could be an outfielder and a relief pitcher, that they don't have to pick between one or the other. If they have two needs, they will try to fill both needs. And then the part that always gets really exciting, too, is all of a sudden a trade gets made. Like, if, to use the Teoscar example that you brought up a second ago, now there's, okay, what's coming back in, what need got filled, what prospects got an opportunity, and all of a sudden, what you don't really like right now, the Dodgers, you would assume, are going to have Teoscar Hernandez in one of the two corners. Well, if he gets moved, now all of a sudden the whole deck gets shuffled again. It's incredibly exciting. This is a very fun time of year.
No doubt about it. And look, the Dodgers, they have options, but also leverage. They don't need to chase. They make the market move around them, and that's going to be the biggest storyline here in the winter meetings, in my opinion. Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, a fan favorite might be returning. There's mutual interest, but there's also a roster crunch and an elbow surgery that just happened a month ago. What should the Dodgers do with Kike Hernandez? The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Alerts for teams and matches make it easy to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out. So you want to check out Team USA, Argentina, Brazil, England, France, etc., etc., etc. It's easy. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rodgers on X and Instagram. Rodgers, just like Dodgers, but replace the D with an R. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. Kike Hernandez and the Dodgers, a perfect match or a roster roadblock? Multiple reports out of Orlando, including The Athletic, say this clearly. The Dodgers and Kike Hernandez have mutual interest in a reunion. Now, that sentence alone brings out emotion from Dodgers fans, because Kike isn't just a player. He's energy, defense, versatility, postseason Kike, postseason magic, the meme king. You can look at him on social media as well. He's a vibe in that clubhouse. He's beloved. But there's more to the story. He just had left elbow surgery, so he's expected to miss a month or two of the 2026 regular season, and he won't be playing in the WBC because of it. So, Travis, right here, what do you do with Kike Hernandez? If both sides are interested, bring him back, or maybe wait on it and see what happens?
Well, I like what you said, Harry. I think what Kike brings to the Dodgers in particular, I think he would bring it to any team that he's played for. We saw him have some success in Boston as well. Is the vibes, right? Think about who's on the Dodgers, right? And think about the guys that are there. You have a very serious group of individuals. You have guys that I think that mostly, pros, right? That Mookie and Freddie, right down the middle of the fairway, very deliberate, very, Ohtani doesn't really say much emotionally, but these guys are right smack in the middle. You look about Max Muncy's, a little bit more prickly or whatever you want to call it. But again, not guys with massive personalities, at least not publicly. Kike is the one guy that does. Kike is a guy that is kind of, you can't have 20 guys like that, but you're going to need one or two. And I think Kike fits a very specific role in that regard with the Dodgers. So I do think that the vibes part of it is a big part of it. I've had my ear to the ground a little bit with this stuff, and I think it's very likely that he does come back. I think that that mutual interest thing is accurate. I think that it's exceptionally likely to happen. Number two is, let me be careful how I say this. I don't want to say I don't care if he doesn't play early in the season, but it's not mandatory that he plays early in the season. Kike Hernandez is here for two things: vibes and October. That's what he's here for. That's what he's carried this team through a number of times. He did it again in the World Series, that incredible double play to end that one game. I mean, I don't know what that guy is all about when it comes to October, but he just turns into a totally different guy. And until that goes away, I think you're going to want to keep it in your clubhouse. I'm excited if he, in fact, does come back. I think he will. And if he's not ready to go till the 4th of July, that's fine too, because they don't need him in, April, May, and June. They need him in September and October.
Yeah, and I'm a huge Kike Hernandez fan, and I'm rooting for him to come back. But there's another side. Bringing back Kike might block roster opportunities for younger talent. And is that worth it? You have to ask, do you prioritize development, or do you prioritize a known weapon who, like you said, you might not care about the first 3 months of the season? And it's like, hey, come back after Independence Day. We'll do a roster crunch and figure out a way to keep you here available. And then boom, you show up when the lights shine the brightest. And I mean, right there, absolutely. Postseason matchups, energy. When the lights are on, Kike goes on from being a role player to a legend. And teams pay for big moments like this, not just depth charts. And if you're focused just on 2026, then it might be the correct move. But if you want to do the bigger picture, the long term, then it might be a moment where it's like, hey, you know what? Let's look at those younger guys, the prospects that we have available that might be in this organization for the next decade or half a decade and be able to produce for this team. There's a moment where Cody Bellinger was that situation. And look at what ended up happening with the Dodgers. They won a World Series with him. He won an MVP. And then the moment that he became a guy that they could send to the side, they did that.
I think one of the things that I love about baseball, and this is an old baseball expression that I've heard managers, general managers use. You don't hear players say it a lot because they don't like to hear it, but it's true. These things tend to work themselves out. That if you've got 5 guys for 3 spots, don't sweat it. It's going to work itself out. That somebody will perform at a level where it sorts itself out. Somebody will get hurt where it sorts itself out. There will be opportunities for everybody. It's very rarely where you just have a guy languishing in a spot and there's nowhere to use him. Now, doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I think a good example of this was Dalton Rushing last year, right? That Dalton Rushing was just kind of on ice for most of the year because Will Smith is Will Smith. You're not going to put him on the bench very regularly. And then all of a sudden, Will Smith gets hurt and it's like, okay, here's my chance. And then he gets hurt right away. So occasionally it doesn't work out the way you want, but I love that expression in baseball that these things tend to take care of themselves. And if that means that Kike is a little late to get there because he's rehabbing from an injury, if that means that a younger player gets an opportunity and thrives, that's all good news. That they will figure these things out on the fly. It's a long season. There are a ton of at-bats to go around, and the Dodgers have done a really good job of juggling that puzzle and making sure that everybody gets what they need.
Yeah, and the most realistic scenario here is a cheap 1-year deal where he has a veteran bench role, and his leadership is what is like, hey, the Dodgers are like, all right, let's invest on this guy because it's a low risk situation, high chemistry, playable in October player. It just makes sense for the boys in blue. And there was a spot, Travis, where where we were like, it's going to be either Miggy or Kike, but not both. Now I feel it's a really good shot that it's actually both.
I think so too. I think it will be both. I think that they can survive with both, but it does, again, I'm not wishing this on anybody. I think one or both of those guys will spend a piece of the season here and there unavailable to play with a little nagging injury, with a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And the Dodgers massaging their roster to make sure that they have the veteran guys they need while getting the young guys the opportunities that they have earned and making sure that by the time you get to October, those two things come together and everything's working the way that it's supposed to. I don't think that it's either or. I think they will find a way to do all of the above.
No doubt about it. Let us know what you think. If you want Kike Hernandez back on the Dodgers, let us know in the comments below on YouTube, on social media at Locked On Dodgers, or via the Locked On Dodgers listener line, 279-3-LOCKED. All right, that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. If you're still craving more baseball talk, have the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night be your second listen. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. On tomorrow's show, there's a trade proposal from a national columnist that I really like and that actually seems realistic that could land Tarek Skubal in LA. Yay or nay?
I don't even need to hear it. I'm in. Let's do it.
Tony, just send whoever you want. Right? We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real. Keep it Dodger Blue.